All right, welcome back, everybody, to the NARPM Radio podcast. And as promised, I have my good buddy, CEO and co-founder of RentScale, Jeremy Pound. Jeremy, thanks so much for joining today.
It's good to be here with you, Pete. Good seeing you.
So when I think of growth, and by the way, most of our NARPM podcasts that we talk about growth are the ones that get downloaded the most. And when I think about growth, you're one of the few people that come to my mind right away. So it's no secret. I've been trying to get you on this podcast for a while now, so I'm glad we were able to make it happen. So thanks so much for being here, brother.
Yeah, I'm glad I made it.
All right, so RentScale basically, for all intents and purposes, grows property management companies. Can I say that? Like, is that kind of what we do?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You might want to clarify a little bit. We specifically grow it on the client acquisition side. Sometimes there's some great strategies out there about just taking the clients you have and adding fees or tweaking your business model, getting better, and growing the capacity to manage. We're talking about brand new owners coming in the door, or the owners that you have buying more properties are referring you more business. So client acquisition side is what we focus on when it comes to growth.
Got it. But not purchasing new property management firms.
Correct. Yes. Organically going out and getting your own clients who are expecting to do business with you and creating those contracts.
Awesome. And so that is probably 95% of the people that are listening, right? And look, let's be honest, right now, most PM firms are contracting. They're not growing right now. So you've been working with lots of clients for many years and you help PM companies grow. So give me your top 2-3 ways and you help companies grow. What are some of the trade secrets that if I was behind the RentScale curtain, what are some of the ways that we grow the business?
So you find if you follow our content or work with us, we're going to start less with the tactics that are easily reproducible, things that kind of seem cheap, but like little growth hacks, as they might call them. And we focus more on, fundamentals and foundationally creating the kind of brand that people want to do business with, building a list of those owners. And that all starts with knowing your niche. What kind of properties do you manage and what kind of owners are you best built to serve? And then we help everybody tell the best story about how the way that your company does business, the practices you have, why it's materially different and the best way for that type of owner or that type of property to be managed. So we're helping them tell their sales story best first, because that's the tip of the spear. If you've got a really sharp story that resonates with people, that doesn't make them gloss over, and by the way, that doesn't just sound like what everybody else is saying. It's not one or two.
We have integrity. We care about your property.
Exactly. We manage the properties like it's our own. We can go through those all day.
Yeah.
So it's actually a unique and compelling value proposition. Then from there, everything else is just about distributing that message. So rather, we're helping you with lead gen programs where you're going out and you're getting referrals, or you're meeting new owners, you're building a list where you're courting those people over time. And of course, obviously, one of the things we're known for the most is actually helping property managers hire a full-time salesperson who's going to be managing this, as the industry calls it, a business development manager or a BDM, who will be setting up these programs and following through. And then, of course, we have all kinds of programs on training them how to convert those leads, because really sucks when you pay for leads and you spend money on marketing, you generate leads, and then they're not buying. You're the also ran or the third place person. Because, unlike sports or any other game you play, Pete, in sales, there's only a first place trophy. It's not really you don't get paid at all for being in second place. And so we help our clients know how to make sure that they capture that. And then from there, we've got some newer programs that we're helping clients really proactively turn their clients into investors and bring on more properties, transition properties from one owner to another. And as we kind of reach that silver tsunami, or we look at the aging population that everybody's talking about, we know portfolios will be changing hands, and making sure that those portfolios change hands within your company.
So I know, there's a difference between marketing and sales.
Mm-hmm.
Now with RentScale, do you help with the marketing piece of it, or do you guys concentrate and say we just focus on the sales aspect of it?
Yeah, we really call ourselves, or we name ourselves, focusing on the sales. But when you think about client acquisition, marketing inevitably comes into play. And when I talked about sharpening the sales story, one of the things we find is that even though we're not hired to do this, I hear this all the time. When our clients get into our program and we craft their sales story, the immediate knee-jerk reaction is we got to go back and fix all of our marketing. So I think that there's a huge spillover effect when we do that. Now, marketing, my last business, Pete, we talked about this, was a marketing agency. So for 7 years, I grew an internet marketing agency. Marketing is a big word, just like sales is a big word. So within marketing, there's multiple disciplines. You've got your reputation management. We always talk about, web presence and reviews, and you've got social media marketing, you've got branding, you've got community outreach, you've got PR. But within that, there's also like hardcore lead gen, straight lead gen. And that's what fuels a salesperson and a sales engine. So we do help our clients with that very narrow niche of marketing, which is just lead gen. How do we get the phone to ring? How do we get a list of people that we can nurture over time? And how do we create more at-bats for the salespeople? So 90% of what we do is really focused on the actual sales side. And the remaining part is a necessary need to create lead gen.
And I think it's brilliant. I think you have to be niched. You have to be really focused. You actually talked about on the PM side, what's your target? And you guys have a great target. Your target is PM firms that are looking to increase sales, right? So
Yeah.
you're practicing what you preach there. So all right. So one of the things that you teach is how to generate more leads for the sales team and how the sales team can generate their own leads. Is that correct?
100%. Yeah. The way we're doing that's changing all the time, Pete, as you know. And that's what is both fun and hard about running RentScale, is we have to constantly be keeping up to speed on what's working today, what's not. Oh, ad prices are changing. It's amazing how this works in one market, but it doesn't seem to be as effective in another market. So we don't always have all the answers. In fact, some of what we were teaching 5 years ago is less effective today, naturally, right? I mean, anybody, look at any business, things just don't work the way they used to. There's a reason newspapers used to own all the buildings in downtown, and now you never see them anymore. I mean, this changes over time. But what's really cool on that is we've got what I believe is the largest community of sales professionals in the industry. Definitely North America, all over US and Canada. And so at any given time, we're working with 100 companies and we're all masterminding and we're sharing what's working and we're trying things. And then that information's feeding back in. And that's just something that's really unique to the property management industry. And I think NARPM is the catalyst for that. And I know you know this, Pete, but the easiest way we get a client is something, a client in Fort Lauderdale doesn't compete with a property manager in Pittsburgh, who doesn't compete with a property manager in Chicago. And so they all want to help each other with best practices. We just kind of have a sped up version of that within the lead gen and the sales role. And then of course, we've got amazing coaches and people that just really understand sales and marketing, kind of reading the label from outside the jar and saying, you think this is what's working for you, but it's actually this, or here's the way to do that repeatably. So it's really a collaborative process where we're bringing new ideas in, we're learning ideas from the community, and then we're perfecting them together. And so everybody wins.
That is brilliant, especially right now. Community and masterminding are some buzzwords. I've been around NARPM forever. I'm seeing it bleed into other industries now, where people pay big money just to be part of a mastermind these days. So,
agreed. And if you don't mind, if I just add to that, Pete, what we've found is, because I'm a part of a couple entrepreneur masterminds, and there's kind of the hosted, facilitated mastermind like we have, and then there's just the peer-led mastermind. So I think what's just, what I really am proud of is we've got the peer people masterminding, and you've got real subject matter experts kind of overseeing that and helping them maybe fill in some dots with some techniques or tactics or some technology that they didn't know about. And so that's just what I want to say is it's really a special thing when you can have a hyper-focused mastermind with some experts kind of assisting everybody along the way.
Yeah, and great ideas come from anybody, right? It doesn't just need to be, oh, it's all Jeremy and he pushes it down. You have this great mastermind. You have all these people contributing. You get great ideas from everybody involved.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, what are a couple of great ideas that you've seen in the last, 6 months or a year? And maybe they work for some people, didn't work for others, but what are some things that you see that some people are starting to do now?
So what's great, talk about full circle here on the podcast. So many of our clients have launched and grown podcasts. it's an immense amount of effort in the beginning with very little payoff. But if you think about, a lot of us know who Mark Ainley is in Chicago with the Straight Up Chicago Investor
Does a
podcast.
great job. Yep.
One of the first ones. I was there at the beginning because he didn't know how to start a podcast and I had one. And so he reached out and I said, oh, we got a great production crew. And he just ran with it. He never even called me back. And the next thing I know, he's got a podcast launch like 2 weeks later because that's how Mark is. I've been fortunate enough to fly out to Chicago for his 100th episode live recording. Then went back for his 200th episode party. I told him I can't keep coming because he sped it up. And now he's like, I feel like he's having parties every 3 months. But he was a celebrity. He's brought together the Chicago community. I flew in from Florida, but I couldn't even get near Mark. Everyone's like, it's like almost like they're out asking for autographs. So, you had like mortgage brokers in the room and real estate agents, investors, a ton of people in the commercial space. Chicago's a very unique market, and he just has created an audience. And, he also has all these ancillary things around the podcast, like tools that are free for investors to use and newsletters that keeps people updated. And he just literally, we have like 10 clients in Chicago, and the other 9, their number one lead source is referrals from Mark. It's just business he can't take on, either because it's not in his area or it's not a good fit. And I may be exaggerating, but only the tiniest bit. These other clients are like, Mark's my number one source. So that's more of a spectacular one that I think is great.
But I think the concept that you've just laid out really is amazing, right? If you know your target client, which you've alluded to, and let's just say your target is going to be, investors, and then you become the expert in your area. So not every podcast has to be Joe Rogan, right? I mean, heck, even a NARPM podcast, if we get 1,000 downloads, but it's 1,000 downloads of people that are niched into this in this industry, right? I'm not getting plumbers to download this or just straight business people. We're getting single family management companies to listen to this. If you can become the expert in your area, so I'll just pick on Houston, that's where I'm at. If I just had a podcast and it was just about real estate inside of Houston, geared for people who want to invest inside of Houston, that's an incredible lead gen. And then, like you said, you literally create products around that, right? Free tools and newsletters. Brilliant. I think that alone right there is worth the price of admission of downloading this podcast right there, brother.
I completely agree. What I've watched him do, which by the way, copy and paste that's just building an audience. That could be on YouTube. That could be through a killer newsletter that you do. So a lot of us know about like Rich Drake, who was down in Houston at Renter's Warehouse. OG, when I came in this industry, he used to have investing meetups that people would drive all over the state of Texas to go to, right? Mm-hmm. Back in your neck of the woods. So like, yes, don't get lost on the word podcast. That's how Mark executed it. But building a community is still the number one, like undefeated long-term success. Now, those are the big ones. So let's kind of pull it down to something smaller. So here's something that, just started popping up that is really exciting. Clearly, we know how little inventory there is on the market for investors, right? And I think that's one of the reasons you said a lot of property managers might be contracting. Well, not the only reason, but one of the leading, headwinds is that there's just not a lot of inventory for investors and flippers and wholesalers to just be passing around, because that immediately creates need. So we all know that the only inventory in the market today, I shouldn't say we all know, what I've seen is all the inventory in the market is new construction. So we've got a lot of our business development managers. This is a great way that you can use sweat equity if you don't have a lot of check equity, which by the way, that's all lead gen, Pete. You got to ask yourself, do I want to invest money? Do I want to invest time? That's really those are the resources we have to grow our business. Sweat equity is going out and meeting these builders, finding not only, don't even think you're giant tract KB homes, but definitely approach them. Every one of those sales offices wants a property management solution, because the investors that are buying them are probably out of town and maybe even out of state. But also think about your micro projects. There are so many fill-in projects that are happening where people are building 6 units in the middle of a populated area because they're tearing down other properties. And these are going to investors. So that's another, new solution that we're seeing really pick up traction, where they're using networking, but they're doing it in a very specific way where they're going right to the inventory even before it's bought by the investor, and they're attaching themselves to it so they get that deal. So those are, kind of 2 ideas on opposite ends of the spectrum.
I like that. I'm going to ask you about another one. Where do you come out on buying lists? Like an eviction list or an investor list or a, unoccupied homeowner list, anything like that.
Yes. Well, I kind of, mentioned when if you zoom out and think about what I said around Mark, list building is kind of the undisputed champion of long-term strategies. Mark is organically using an inbound list, right? He's putting out killer content and people are coming to him and they're signing up. Amazing. There's also the outbound list building. So I guess I'm a fan is the punchline, Pete, but only if you know what you're going to do with the list. So good list building and prospecting is not, I buy 10,000 people and I send them one postcard and it either works or it doesn't. It's not, I'm going to get 30 eviction lists, 30 people on eviction in this neighborhood, and I'm going to call them all once. And if it doesn't work out, I'm just going to move on, right? I think that it's the long play. So the list is the beginning, right? Getting them on the list, but then the follow-up and the killer message and the killer offer, like we talked about, knowing what you have to offer, like knowing what problems you solve for them and why it's different and how you can help them. And that's the thing to think about lead gen is people forget the ways that we become leads in our own life. When you're the business owner and you think about generating leads, you think, I'm going to call someone and they're either going to buy my product or they're not. But real good lead gen that we all experience is a little bit more like the cliche, you're going to have a free trip because I'm going to sell you my timeshare while you're there. Like they're selling us on what's in it for us. What's in it for us is a free trip to Vegas. But while we're there, we are now a lead with an opportunity to be sold. Some will buy, some won't, right? It's a tale as old as time. But that's what real good lead gen is to me. So it's Mark, sending out his tool and his calculator. It's another client of mine who just sends out like a deal of a week to investors, and over 5, 7, 9 years, they've accumulated that email list into thousands of people that just want that deal a week. So that's my long answer is it depends what you're going to do with the list, but I'm a fan.
Okay. So let's switch gears here. You talked about BDMs. I have a two-part question here.
Okay.
When you are looking to hire a BDM, what are some of the qualities? Maybe it's a disc profile or just what are some qualities you're looking for? And then my second part of that question is, what are the KPIs or what are the numbers that we should look at? So when we're building a job description, I'm looking at what's the personality profile and what's the scorecard, right? You mentioned that earlier. What's the scorecard? So what are a couple of things that you can teach us on that?
Great. So the first answer is going to be a lot of things, but we speak about this a lot at NARPM events. We've got lots of guides and videos we've given away. And we've got a whole, kind of guide to hiring and training a BDM that we give away. Because, honestly, sometimes people call us and they're just not ready for our service or they're already in the process and they just want some help. So the first thing I want people to focus on, and again, this is not everything. This is just the first thing, is imagine like 2 dimensions, right? Like crossing over. On your x-axis, you have their natural leadership ability in a conversation. So if you get on a call like this, are they just sitting there waiting for you to ask them a question and they're giving you very simple answers? Or are they answering you and then they're asking you questions? Are they saying things like, what else do you want to know? Do they have a natural kind of propensity to lead the conversation? You can find that out from the very first phone call with that person. And you might have to give them a little time to warm up, and there's ways that you can do that. The other dimension is called the y-axis, is their appetite to follow a system. What we want in our property management companies is not the cowboy gunslinger, the rainmaker. The hard part about that is very often the person who starts the business, like me, is the cowboy rainmaker, and they want to do it differently every time. They're attracted to novelty. They forget about following processes. They don't always dot the I's and cross the T's. That's an amazing way to start a business, but that's not what you want long-term. You want someone who's going to show up consistently and put in the work and reliably hit your sales goals. That's one of the things we look for. So if you imagine that access, right? If you can have both like a pretty high leadership ability, they don't have to be off the charts. We just want them in the upper 50 percentile, and they have a natural appetite for following process. That is the person that you want to know more about. That's the person you talk to about their goals. That's the person you would make sure, is presentable and can, learn about property management and wants to go out and do the things. It's the other people that have very, very low leadership ability on the calls and very low appetite, almost allergic aversion to following a process that you don't want. So that's just kind of the first tip that's probably easiest to take away on a podcast that we are always teaching people. And then from there, we're going to look at background, we're going to check references, we're going to look for, just like we're going to do some personality profiles. But I think it is as simple as that. That's the first thing I look at. If you call me and you said, hey, I've got a BDM, I'm not really sure if they're working, they don't seem to be closing any business, I'm just going to have a conversation and it's like, are they even in those two categories?
Interesting.
Yeah.
When we were hiring, we used DISC and we were looking for the ID. The
Mhm.
I is the outgoing, people
Yes.
focused. The D is the guy who actually will actually ask for the sale.
Yeah.
And what we found was that their salespeople need a little bit of C, right? They need some detail. They need to follow the system. And what we found was it's hard to find that person. So we
Yeah.
hired virtual team members that were high Cs and partnered them up with the salespeople. And the salespeople, all they had to do was literally just go from meeting to meeting to meeting.
Yeah.
Um, and then they just had to like get the information to just the basic information to the virtual team member who would then create the PMA, do the CMA, whatever it was that needed to be done, put all the stuff in the
Yeah.
CRM system. Do you have a favorite CRM system that you guys recommend, or is it?
Oh yeah, yeah. And by the way, I just want to say you're absolutely right. We're looking for somebody with DI and C. If anybody is listening knows disc, that's the thing is I think the common thing everybody teaches is you want the high I and some D, and that may work in different sales roles. But I'm telling you, in a consistent needing to sell, like you and I were talking about the uniqueness of the property management business, and it's the constant low sales and recurring revenue, and it's the follow up. So you nailed it. The DIC, if you can get that one person, is the one you want. If not, I like your approach. How you kind of
Gotta
bolted two
piecemeal
people
it.
together to do it, because it's the follow up too. The C is the follow up. So yes, the CRM question. We work with a lot of them. The obvious answer is cliche. Everybody says like the best CRM is the one you use because they're amazing. But when I had the agency, I worked in Salesforce all the time, and HubSpot and Zoho, and too many other ones, Pipedrive to mention. And obviously I'm in this business because Jordan from Lead Simple found me and brought me in. And when Jordan showed me what Lead Simple did out of the box, I laughed because I'm like, clients pay me thousands of dollars to go into Salesforce and turn off features and then to integrate text messaging and like I would have to piece together like, and this was again 5 years ago, but I'd have to integrate like 6 programs just to do what Lead Simple did. And by the way, Lead Simple was out of the box and it was like a ninth of the price. So we love Lead Simple. We cannot promote it enough. There's other good ones, but that's just the one we know, and we love
Free.
those guys.
And Lead Simple has free training on the VPN platform. So we actually
Oh,
put
great.
Lead Simple in
Yeah.
the training
They
on it.
do a lot for the community. I got nothing bad to say about those guys.
They sure do. All right. So we kind of have the qualities of that BDM. Now, how do I know if that BDM is doing a good job, right? So
Yeah.
what are some of the KPIs? Um, do you look at actions or do you look at results or do you look at a combination of both?
That's a great question. We do look at a combination of both. And the answer is it's the proverbial, it depends. We do have clients, you may be one of them listening, you may hate them if you're not, but we do have clients that are just, they've been in business 15 years, their natural search engine ranking is off the charts, they've got referral sources out the yin yang, and they're like Mark jokingly turning away leads. They are only focused on conversion and follow through. Because that's the other thing that's really, really important. I think that we all have this fantasy that we're going to get on every single call and this perfectly silver-tongued salesperson is going to close every deal on the very first call. But the reality is people are gathering information. They're making decisions. It's a very high-stakes educational conversation. So we actually talk about this a lot. It's important to point this out. It's a good concept for every owner to know. The sale is far more high stakes for the prospect than it is for you. If you get the deal, it's one door. And hopefully it's one door out of 100 or 200 or 500 that you're managing. This may be their most expensive asset that they own. It may be the first time they're doing this, or it may be the one of 5 properties, but they just lost their shirt because they had a terrible manager in a different part of town. So you just have to remember that the stakes are much higher for the owner. And that's going to mean a sophisticated sell with follow-up, with empathy and follow through. And so for some of our clients, it is just a conversion rate. For many of our clients, they're looking for them to build that list to follow through. And it's 90% activities, just like you said. We got a plan for them. We got 30, 60, 90 day when you onboard. that's really more focused on your learning and your ramping up ability. After the 90 days, it's a little bit more of a recurring calendar. And it's, are you prospecting? Are you doing follow-up? Are you following up with old leads? Are you networking? Are you on social? Are you, some of our BDMs are really heavily involved in managing the content plan. And then it becomes activities. For most of our clients, it's like turning a dial. It's a little bit of both. So answer depends, but both of those are very important.
So I think it's a brilliant answer, by the way. So now when I'm looking at what are the KPIs I'm looking at? So if it's activities, great. That could just literally just be activity, and an activity could be an email, a phone call, a text message, a posting, a like. It could be anything like that. Now we got some inbound leads, let's say. And from there, I have an inbound lead, and it could be a lead or an opportunity. Do you do the hot, cold, warm thing, or do you do opportunity and lead, or how do you break that up? And then what are some of the things um, conceptually that you can tell our listeners, like this is what a lead is versus a hot or a warm or an opportunity?
This is a fantastic question. And there's so much information out there about this. I have really been focused on this for a long time. So I have these like very, very black and white opinions that may work for some people, but it's what we teach. So we like the lead versus opportunity. And there's also target, by the way. So a target is, who they are, right? You have their name and address. So you said, should we buy a list? So I could give you a list and I can say, hey, these are 10 investors that were just at a meeting that all own property in your neighborhood. But we don't know if they're interested in a property manager. So I call those targets.
Got it.
As soon as I
Right.
know that there's intention there, like they filled out a lead form, they've called us, that I need their name, I need their contact info, and I need to know they're at least interested, right? Then they're a lead. But I don't know they're qualified. If I speak to them and I know they have a property and I know the property fits and I know that they fit and that they understand what I'm, the process, now they're qualified. So I like it's really funny coming from the sales guy who's definitely at a high eye on the disc profile. I actually really crave certainty when it comes to this. What I don't like, which so many people talk, is like an opinion of a ranking of a lead. So what happens is they say, hey, rank it on 1 to 10, or rank it like red, yellow, green, or cool, medium, hot. I think that in human psychology, like we just are overestimating that we get it. I mean, I think we can all relate to that terrible conversation we have with a client who's never going to buy, and they call us back and they're like, where do I sign? And then we have those conversations with people that are like, man, I was vibing with that guy. He is definitely going to be a client. Like, that is perfect. He's probably going to buy 10 properties with us over the next
Never
year.
hear from
He
again.
ghosts you, right? It just never calls back. So I don't like and I also feel like it burns unnecessary like mental calories, right? If you're doing this at a high volume and you're not just working on one deal a day, but you're juggling deals, you're prospecting, I want to keep the decision making to where it really matters. I mean, decision making matters, and so I want to save those decisions for the things that matter. Like, what's the follow up that it's going to take to get this guy's attention and get him to get back to me? Or how can I position this objection he has as something it's not really a negative for him or her, it's actually a positive. I want my salespeople's mind focused on things like that.
Yeah, we had a marketing team and we had a sales team. And we always hear about the sales versus operations, especially in property manager, where sales might sell something operations can't handle. But we had an issue with marketing and sales was trying to say everything was a lead, right? And marketing was trying to say everything was an opportunity. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so what we had to do is we had to really define what an opportunity, what a lead was. And a lead was just like what you said. So I thought your definition of a lead was spot on. Anybody who basically fills out a form or reaches out to you. That's a lead. The opportunity for us was anybody who was looking for us to manage a property that we would manage, right? So not an apartment complex in low income area, but maybe a class B property in a class B area in the next 90 days. And so we were pretty definitive. Now we can't get all of that information right from the get-go, but after you have a couple of conversations, you can flip a lead to an opportunity, flip an opportunity to a lead. And our goal was 50% of all leads were supposed to be opportunities. And then our conversion rate was supposed to be 50% of the opportunities would get converted, which is pretty
Right.
high to get, but that
Yeah.
was kind of a high level
Yeah,
deal.
but you guys had momentum, you had reputation, you had lead flow, you had experience. I believe that from what I heard about your company. You guys were still operating when I started. I believe that those were reasonable targets if you've got that kind of momentum going.
Yep. So, all right. So, what is a good conversion rate then, based on you're talking about opportunities, leads?
Yeah.
Like, I know obviously it's going to be a less conversion rate on leads and a higher version of opportunities. But what are you seeing in the industry right now on a decent BDM?
That's great. By the way, I just want to backtrack on not backtrack, but I want to I put the icing on the cake what you and I talked about. When I said that when they go from a lead to an opportunity, it was qualified, I actually forgot to say timeline. You remind me with the 90 days thing right there. That's the other thing. They're really an opportunity if they'll admit a timeline, even if that timeline is in the crazy future. Like if they'll actually admit their timeline, like, oh, I'm definitely going to make a decision. That is what you want on that first call. So I would be remiss if I didn't just piece that in there. So that was great. So I may not be the best person to answer this this question, just because I'm not actively coaching the BDMs every single day. Obviously, you hear these numbers, we talk about it a lot. We've got two amazing coaches that are working directly with the BDMs and another two that are working with the owners, and they're looking over this every time. So I'm going to try to get you some information and send it to you, but it might become dated anyway. I know people might be listening to this thing for a couple of years from now. So here's what I would say is you want to focus more on cost of acquisition than just conversion rate, right? So it depends where their leads are coming from. So nothing wrong if you're getting dozens and dozens of cheap leads a week and you're only closing a couple. Very different than if you're getting 4 or 5 very expensive leads a week and you're not closing any, right? So I like to focus on cost of acquisition. I also like to remind my clients that you should not expect your conversion rate to be elastic or scalable. So I love when I get calls from owners and they're like, I don't know if you can really help me, Jeremy, because I have a 75% closing rate. And I'm like, great. Well, tell me about your lead flow. They're like, well, last month I got 3 leads. It was my mom's boss. It was my old college roommate. It was,
Right.
my next door neighbor. And I'm like, well, maybe you do need my help because that should have been 100% close rate, So I chuckle, but like, you can't take a referral or I know you conversion rate and apply that to cold traffic or apply that to bot leads, right?
Yeah.
So we teach, and it's not everybody has the appetite for this, but in Lead Simple, which we talked about, you can actually see your conversion rate for every lead source. I think that the marketing reports in Lead Simple are the best kept secret that nobody's using. I said that last year at Lead Simple University. I think that the marketing reports are amazing. I just don't think every owner, because they don't have a marketing manager like you guys did, has the appetite. But I would look at each lead source by conversion.
I'm gonna let you on a little secret.
Yes, please do.
When we were spending an awful lot of money, and I use the word spending on purpose, we were spending an awful lot of money on marketing early on. And when I finally took over marketing, I ended up doing cost per lead per strategy. And by doing that, sorry, hold on one second.
Oh, background noise.
My dog's killing me. Yeah,
I'm glad mine have behaved. So I have tons of patience for this.
all right. So early on, we were spending money on marketing. And I use that word on purpose because when you spend money and you don't invest and you don't know your numbers, it's spending, right? And so when I took over marketing, I ended up learning how much money we were spending per strategy, and we were learning how many leads we're getting per strategy. I cut my spending down from 20,000 a month to 2,500 a month. Okay. Now, when I was doing 20,000 a month, I was getting 100 leads and 50 opportunities. When I cut it down to 2,500 a month, I was getting about 80 leads and 50 opportunities.
Amazing. That's amazing.
So when you know the cost per lead per strategy, like Jeremy's just saying, you can dramatically change those levers and reduce it and increase investment, not spending on those strategies.
Yes. And so as we talked, to circle back, we said some things that worked 5 years ago don't work now. Only if you're isolating each strategy, like you're saying, do you know when one is falling off a cliff or one is actually accelerating, right? So even more of an argument on why you don't want to just be bundling all your lead sources when you're looking at spending or investing reports, as you call them, which I love that.
Yeah. I'll give you a great example. We were doing radio commercials in Dallas.
Yep.
And so I'd ask my marketing guy, I'm like, hey, how much is the radio commercial in Dallas? It's X dollars. Great. How many leads you getting? He goes, I don't know. I go, what do you mean you don't know? He goes, I don't know. I'm like, why do we not have a separate number or a separate, squeeze page or whatever? How do we track that? And so I said, because you don't know, you just lost that capability. Cancel the commercial tomorrow.
Wow. That's great.
Yep. And so we canceled all of our commercials because,
Yeah.
and we realized, a month later that it had no bearing. We weren't getting any leads from it because it didn't change our lead.
Yes. It's above the scope of this conversation, but let's just tell the audience it is easier than you think to track this lead source. There are so many tools and so many easy ways. Reach out to any marketing agency or any person who's in marketing, and they'll blow your mind at how easy it is to track leads. Pretty
Yeah,
relative.
I'll give a shout out to my business partners on VPM. They own Geekly Media. Give
Yeah.
geeklymedia.com a call, formerly at Rent Bridge, Michael and Heather Park. Great folks.
There you go.
We are up against it, but I do want to ask you
Okay.
one more question, right? Because
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are kind of, probably waiting for me to ask this question. How do you compensate a BDM?
Great. So there's a lot of ways. We have a comp model that we, without taking up too much time, just reach out. I can assure you that there's a lot of thought behind this. I would say that the majority of the industry that you and I know is using our comp model because we've been giving it away for 5 years. So if you do reach out to me, we'll give you our comp model because it works. And we've proven it over, I think we've hired over 300 BDMs. We just did a webinar this year. And we've trained a lot of other ones. So we like a mix of base and commission. So it depends on what you're paying them. And it depends on your area. There is no one number. Everyone's like, well, what's the base? I promise you,
That's going to depend on where you live and where they live, right?
My clients in St. Louis are not paying what my clients in San Diego are paying. They're very, very different. So we want a blend of base and then per door commission. And our model, the couple cool subtle things about it is it's like, I call it an escalator. So maybe the first 5 doors you get, and this depends, this is a variable. We had a client, they're like, look, I have so much marketing, I'll trip over 10 doors a month. I'm like, okay, fine. So your first range is 0 to 10. Some of our clients aren't really closing yet. Maybe their first range is 0 to 5. Your first 5 doors might get paid $50 or $150 per door. Maybe the next 10 get $250 a door. Maybe the next 10 get $450 a door. What that does is it allows you to have an exemplary comp model for a fantastic person who's going to come in and blow the doors off your business. So if they say, well, would you pay somebody $100,000 to be a BDM? And they said, absolutely not. And I'm like, well, what if they close 250 doors a year? And they're like, I'd pay them 150,000. So the thing is they're thinking small. And if we're attracting a talented person, we need to think big, but we don't need to give the farm away. And that's why I love this model, because it kind of starves out the also-rans and the people that are just happy to get by, and it golden handcuffs the people that are going to come in and blow you away.
The last thing you want is to hire a BDM and they are focusing on their base salary.
Yes, exactly. So base, depending on how big it is, should be anywhere from 1/3 to half of their on-target earnings. That will change. Again, rural areas, maybe it's going to be a little bit more, but if you're in a really big area, it might only be 1/4 or 1/3 of their model. And here's one tool that I want to give away that we use. I love it. It's so relevant for the industry. Everybody's like salary calculators and things like that. They talk to recruiters. I feel like that information's like a year old. And just like we've seen, salaries have gone up, the market's changed. What I love, like when you rent an apartment and you're setting the price on the apartment, Pete, what do you do? What do you go look at?
Run a CMA.
Yeah, on current comps, recent comps, not comps from a year ago.
No, after 6 months, they're no good. Yeah. You
So did you know that
back maybe 90 days? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's actually comps for jobs by market, which is amazing. So there's this great tool, totally free. I hope it's around forever because we use it like crazy. Go to talent.com/salary. Super easy. Talent.com/salary. You put in business development manager, or maybe you put in sales associate, and then you put in St. Louis or Orlando or whatever you're putting in, Houston. And it's going to give you a bar, like a bell chart of the lowest, the median, and the highest. But just like when you run a comp, you're going to actually see all the jobs these are jobs that are listed today, which is why I'm saying they're comps. You're going to want to take an introspective look, because if it says, all these jobs are like 90,000 a year, but then you start clicking on them and they're business development managers. They're managing 15 employees. They're doing rocket science work. It's not a relevant
It's
comp.
not an apples to
You know what I
apples.
mean? Yeah, it's not an apples to apples. So I love talent.com/salary. Run your comps, and then when it's do yourself a favor, because then when you're in that negotiation meeting and you've made an offer and they say, I think I should make more, you're just going to go be like, well, here are the 3 jobs I base this on. Now, that almost never comes up, but you should be prepared for it. So I just wanted to give that away.
So early on, when I started Empire, I was pretty adamant that I would not hire BDMs virtually. I've since come on the other side of that, and now for VPM, my sales team is actually virtual. Where do you come on the side of that?
We get asked this a lot, and we've adjusted just like you, for sure, Pete. Because it's property management and because it's real estate, our preference is that you can get boots on the ground. It's just not required. Maybe 2 years ago, we were kind of a little more closed-minded to it, even though I've got a ton of international and global talent on my team. But we knew that there was a competitive advantage to knowing this side of this street is a different market than that side of the street, or being involved with all the real estate agents, or knowing how to get involved in the community, or knowing what the market is doing. So our preference is, so what I tell an owner is, just know that you're giving up these things if you get somebody who's not local, because you can get somebody that's not local and you can fly them in once in a while, or you can educate them, you can teach them things. You're just going to be giving up, kind of the in-person opportunities, some of the networking opportunities. And if you got a good enough strategy that those things weren't even part of your game plan, you're gold. That's the way we handle it. We just want to kind of advise them on what they're giving up, but we've seen it work.
Man, I could sit here all day and ask you questions. You're got tons and tons of nuggets. People got they're gonna have to listen to this like 2, 3 times to really get all the knowledge that you're dropping. We're gonna take a quick break. I'm gonna put you in a lightning round, and then we'll be right back, everybody. We'll be right back more with Jeremy Pound. Killed it, brother. We'll be right back, everybody. All right, welcome back, everybody. All right, Jeremy Pound, you are in the lightning round. Are you ready? I
Got a
do
sip of
that
water,
sound.
I'm
I do
hydrated, I'm
that.
ready to go.
I do that sound effect every show. People must get freaking so upset with me now. Like, dude, stop with the. And then I always use the same joke. My
I
joke
did
is
it twice.
NARPM. It's a free podcast, so that's my budget for sound effects.
Thanks.
All right, here we go. What is one piece of advice you would give someone who's just starting out in the PM business?
Uh, Market and advertise more than you think you need to.
If you went out boozing one night, which I know we don't do that, the next day you had to hit a fast food restaurant to absorb some of the alcohol, what's your go-to?
Ooh, the next day. Thinking of, oh, they're all good. If I'm in the right area, which I don't live in that area, but I'll just say my dream fast food restaurant to recover would be White Castle.
White Castle. Oh yeah, it's an oldie but goodie, man.
Don't have them here in Florida, so I don't get it often.
All right. What was your first job?
It was selling luggage in the mall. This is a funny story I've told on
Sales
stage. So
guy. Let's hear it. I got to hear this
that's
story.
the funny story. We all get into sales on accident. I went through the mall and I gave all my applications to the cool places like the Gap and like all the fun places. The only place that called me back was the luggage store because I had a friend that worked there, and I ended up selling in the luggage store. But I taught me everything I knew about sales in the beginning.
Oh man, if you could sell luggage, if you could dodge a wrench, you could dodge a ball. If you could sell luggage, you could sell property management.
Selling like 4,000 luggage sets, $4,000 luggage sets when I'm like 17 in the mall at Christmas. It was hilarious.
You never even went anywhere yet.
I didn't know what it was, but man, I could tell you all about the zippers and the leather and how it was dyed. They gave me all the training.
Oh man. All right, well let's go there. What is your ideal vacation?
Ooh, I got a lot of them. I love the mountains. I was just there, getting into the fresh air, getting out of Florida, out of the heat, getting in the mountains, man. I love that. And then the Greek islands are just top of my list. I love it there.
Ooh, nice. Both of them are very nice.
Yeah.
Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Yeah, it doesn't work for me. Those don't seem to go together.
I gotta say, I thought you were gonna be a pineapple guy. I'm glad you're not.
I've given it a try with an open mind, and I can't get into it.
What is something that most people don't know about you?
Okay, I had a high school band called Soylent Green, and I had the Kurt Cobain haircut that was down on my shoulders, and each week it was a different color. Sometimes it was purple, sometimes it was green. It was crazy, but I
Were you
learned
the
all
lead
about.
singer? What would you
No,
did you
I was the guitar player, but I wrote all the songs and I was the manager. I got us all the gigs, so I learned how to market when I was doing
market in
that.
sales? Look at that, right from an
Yeah.
early age. Do you still play today? You still
Very rarely. Every year or two I break it out and I'm like, and then I don't have the calluses. I just get busy. But yeah, I mean maybe I can play like two or three songs if I really had to.
nice. All right. If you could have dinner with anyone alive, who would it be?
Ooh, I'm just for the sake of speed, the first person that came to mind was Richard Branson.
He's on my list too. I think
Yeah.
that unbelievable. You're in Florida. What's the Disney character you most associate with?
Scrooge McDuck. Is that a Disney character? I don't know.
You know
Is it
what? It is
comic
for
book?
the, yeah, I think it is. Yes, I
I
think it
grew
is.
up watching DuckTales with my dad before school every day. We loved it.
Love it. All right. And what do you prefer, dogs or cats?
Oh, Docs, I got two under the desk right now.
Dog guy. All right, Jeremy. If somebody wanted to learn more about RentScale or reach out to you, what's the best way they can get to you?
You can find us at rentscale.com. That's easy if you want to talk to us as a company. As Pete knows, I'm on all the socials. I'm just Jeremy Pound everywhere. Find me, I'm all a lot of the property management Facebook groups. I'm always out there. Easy place. We got a couple of cool things you can check out. I don't even know if you know about this, Pete, but when we have our This Week in PM. So I do a live show every other week called This Week in PM. If you check out Strategic PM on any of the social channels, that's the magazine that we've launched in the brand. So we have strategicpm.com. You can find it. You can sign up for free. We do quarterly issues. We basically capture the best case studies of the fastest growing property managers in the industry. And then we have a more relevant show which we'll have you on sometime soon, Pete. We just kind of talk about what's happening right now, like trends, just things like that are happening. But what's really cool is every episode, or once a month, not every episode, every other episode, we actually share our scorecard from the business development community. So we share the average number of leads that this community is getting. We show the top 5 markets, where they are and how many doors they closed, and often the leaders in the 30s and the 40s, which is amazing. And then we show the average of the whole community and the average of the top 50%. The reason for that is because the whole community often involves people that just got started like last week. So they're going to bring that average down. So if you go to rentscale.com/scoreboard, rentscale.com/scoreboard, it's all there. You can see the whole last year, which is really cool. If you want to see what's happening in our little, microcosm of the industry, then you can check it out. And you can also find it on This Week in PM. So got a lot of content to share with you guys, totally for free. And then I think we have the best event for property managers who really want to grow on the client acquisition side every year. It's in December. We're doing it in Austin this year. It's December 6th on Friday, 2024, in case you're listening to this in the future, but we do it every year. You can go to salesmastery.live or you can go to our website, and it's going to be an amazing event, one-day event, all about how to attract leads, convert them, and multiply them. And what's really cool is it's the same week as Lead Simple University. So Lead Simple University is Tuesday through Thursday. We're Friday. We have a few joint tickets we just released today. By the time you hear this, they'll probably be gone. But you can go to both events, or you can send one team member to one and another to the other, and you guys get to enjoy Austin in December.